Here are the ingredients that I use to make my own deodorant. I'm using Bob's Red Mill baking soda. It uses less chemicals to extract, and so I just prefer it. You could use regular baking soda. I'm using organic cornstarch. You could also use arrowroot starch. So I've got 1 tablespoon of the baking soda, 1 tablespoon of the cornstarch, and I'm using 2 teaspoons of bentonite clay. You'll see that I'm using a little bit of beeswax off of this beeswax stick. I'm starting out with 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, which is also antibacterial and good for your skin. I may only use a tablespoon. We're going to see how the mixture hardens up, and then I'm also using a few drops of an orange essential oils, just to give it a nice scent. You don't have to use that. You could use other essential oils also. So all of these ingredients I feel are good for your skin. The bentonite clay will absorb moisture as well as the other ingredients, and it's nothing compared to store-bought deodorants, which have aluminum byproducts and all kinds of things that I feel are not so good for you or your skin. And I've always had a problem with rashes when I used a lot of the store-bought deodorants. So I'm going to go ahead now and set up a double boiler, simple double boiler, and show you how I mix these all together, and then pour it into the reusable or reused deodorant container. So I've set up a pan of water that I'm heating, and then I'm going to use a Pyrex measuring cup, and that'll go in there like that, and that's what I'm going to use to heat up the ingredients. I don't really need to get it too hot. I'm just trying to mix in mainly the beeswax. Everything else will pretty much mix together. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of the beeswax and start melting that. So I'm just going to start melting the beeswax, and I will start mixing the ingredients once the beeswax is liquid. And I'll keep stirring that around, make it melt faster. And the reason why I use the beeswax is to make the mixture a little bit firmer. You might not need as much beeswax, or maybe you don't need any beeswax at all. In Hawaii, coconut oil is liquid, but at room temperature. But you know, coconut oil might be in a harder state if you're in a cooler climate. But the beeswax helps firm up this whole mixture, so I like using it. Once the beeswax has totally melted and there's no chunks in there, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pour in about a tablespoon of the coconut oil, which is about half of this shot container. And now I'll stir that and mix it all in. And now I'm going to start slowly mixing in the other ingredients. So I'll start with the baking soda. I'll add a little at a time. Start mixing that in. Then the tablespoon of starch. This is cornstarch, but like I said, you could use arrowroot starch or anything. This is an organic cornstarch. No GMOs. I don't like using GMOs. And you do want to mix this all together. You don't want any lumps or anything like that. So, mix it all in. Now I'm going to mix in the bentonite clay. And bentonite clay really absorbs moisture. So we're going to stir this in. And you can see that it's really starting to thicken up here. I'm going to mix that really well. And it looks like, you know, I'm not going to need to add in much more coconut oil. So I can turn off the stove. I've got it at medium heat, a very slow boil. And then I'm going to put in about 3 or 4 drops of the essential orange oil. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to stir that in really well. So the consistency looks really good. I don't think I'm going to need to add any more than a tablespoon of the coconut oil. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this mixture into the reused deodorant container. And it's already starting to thicken up a bit, so I'm going to come back in here and warm it up a little bit, and I'm going to top it off. Now you can make larger batches if you want, and you can refrigerate this, so you know you can make small batches. Just double the batch if you want to make more, triple the batch. You can actually make quite a bit up front, and then store it, and then use it later. Put it into the container. You don't even really need to heat it up. I'll show you that later. And I'm going to pour the rest into the container. And actually, I could have made more. I'm seeing that I could have mixed up probably double this, and would have been fine. But sometimes, you know, better to work in small batches. So I just mixed up another batch and stored it away in this little cup, and I'll use that later. Some people even take it right out of the cup and use it, but I could either reheat it, I can put it back into the reusable container, the deodorant container, or maybe use it right out of the cup. I'm just going to put this in the refrigerator and store it until we need it. Okay, so here we go. That's about it. This has been cooled down, and you can see that it works just fine. Can roll it out, twist it, and it'll come out just like a normal deodorant container. And so there you go. Make your own natural deodorant using baking soda, or cornstarch, a little bit of bentonite clay, and coconut oil. All of them really good for your skin, antibacterial. It works great. So here's the container that I cleaned. Clean up your old cartridge, and what you can do to find out how much liquid you're going to need is very simple. Just go ahead and pour in some water like this. Fill it up. Discard the water that was in the measuring cup, and just pour the water back in, and you can see that I need about a quarter cup in order to fill up this reused deodorant cartridge.